In the last few years, Monster Hunter has turned from a niche series that we'd be lucky to see localized into a global franchise with millions of fans. Today, Monster Hunter World stands as Capcom's best-selling game ever, and so now with new Monster Hunter games releasing in 2021, the entire world is getting them all at the same time. Here's 5 things you need to know about Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter Stories 2: Wings of Ruin. Back in 2010, they released Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, a Monster Hunter game with a distinctly Japanese theme. And now, since it's been over 10 years, they figured they'd have another shot at it, but this time really embrace the ideas of traditional Japanese monsters. So many of the monsters are inspired in some way by yokai, with references in their Japanese names. For instance, the main monster, Magmalo, is based on the Onryo, a vengeful ghostly spirit, while the Axonom is based on the Karakasa Obake, the umbrella yokai, and you can kind of see that in the fans on its neck. Monster Hunter World had a bit of a habit around the end of just constantly bringing in different monsters based on Western dragons, so it's good to see Rise take on a whole new set of inspirations. On the tech side of things, this is the first time they're using RE Engine for a Monster Hunter game. While it was available during World, it was very early days, so they used a modified version of their old engine instead. One of the things noticeable about Rise is that RE Engine is more scalable than we thought. So far, we've only seen it used for the photorealism of Devil May Cry 5 and the Resident Evil remakes, but not only does it work well for a more toon style, but they also worked with Capcom engineers to make sure it works on not just the Switch, but the Switch in handheld mode as well. All this while making the world open instead of zoned, like Monster Hunter titles in the past. The game first started development after Generations, which means that they were creating it alongside the development and post-launch of Monster Hunter World. And this was advantageous because it meant that they could take the feedback they were getting from players of World and apply it to both games. So while this is more comparable to classic Monster Hunter titles, things like the open world, mounts, and the ability to drink a potion while moving are all things inspired by World's success. But it wasn't just the mainline games that benefited from Monster Hunter World's success. In 2016, Capcom released a turn-based RPG, Monster Hunter Stories, on 3DS, but it failed to perform as well as other titles did and didn't manage to compete with other kid-focused brands at the time. But both the new success of Monster Hunter and positive feedback from those that enjoyed it, myself included, prompted them to give it another shot, despite having initially given up on the idea of a sequel. However, this time, instead of it being targeted at children, they're going for a wider audience. A part of this is a new visual style, which matches closer to modern RPGs on the Switch. Likewise, it's getting full English and Japanese voice acting, so it's easier to get engaged in the story. The original game launched with a kids anime series titled Monster Hunter Stories Ride On, but the sequel, titled Monster Hunter Stories 2: Wings of Calamity, is taking a very different approach. And while they're keeping the simple gameplay of the original title, they're adding more features and detail that will hopefully keep older players engaged as well. On a personal level, I'm really excited to see them take another shot at this idea of a turn-based Monster Hunter. Feel free to subscribe to find out more about the art and creation of Japanese pop culture.